Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the new Fulgrim. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so we've got the newest of the Primarchs coming up for pre-order, and this is the Horus Heresy Fulgrim Transfigured. So they had initially done all of the Primarchs in Forgeworld Resin, and then recently they redid Horus as the Horus Ascended. A much cooler model and up to date. And now we see the next of the Primarchs getting their new model, and that is Fulgrim Transfigured. And obviously very cool model. So let's take a look at the actual article, take a look at the model, and then the price as well. Slithering into pre-orders for Forgeworld today is none other than the Primarch of the 3rd Legion. Fulgrim Transfigured is an absolutely stunning miniature, from the tip of the serpentine tail to the top of his resplendent wings. So he is a very cool model, definitely tons and tons of detail. It is in Forgeworld Resin, unfortunately, and it's only usable in Warhammer 30k, which for me is just a straight up hard line in the sand. I'm just really not into Forgeworld Resin at all. I've had terrible experiences with it. And it's not just the actual resin itself, it's just the overall quality of Forgeworld service. And a lot of times people will argue that it's better now that they've changed their resin, the quality's better, the service is better, etc. But the truth is, it's not. It's the same. On a regular basis, I have to order Forgeworld models, build them, and paint them for other people. So I have plenty of experience with their stuff, their old stuff, their new stuff, and specifically with their customer service. And while I haven't actually had any customer service issues recently, I was actually watching the Tabletop Titans Halloween stream. And on that stream, they specifically mentioned this model right here. Games Workshop had sent them a free Fulgrim, the brand new Transfigured model, and they sent them 2 of the same wing. So they gave them 2 of the right wing on the Fulgrim model. So obviously now they have to wait for a new wing to come in and then pin it, build it, and then they can actually start painting it and everything. But it just further proves that Forgeworld has not changed. They're still the same old Forgeworld, which is unfortunate because honestly, when Games Workshop started redoing a lot of the 30k kits into plastic, I was hoping that they were going to get away from the Forgeworld resin and just the overall poor Forgeworld experience. Unfortunately, that's not the case because now they're taking on a lot of the old world stuff, and obviously we're seeing plenty of new stuff coming out from Forgeworld, all of like the necromunda characters and lots of like 30k characters as well. And I think my main actual issue with Forgeworld is the combination of 2 main things. One is the resin quality, or just the quality of resin in general, and 2 is the price. So for me, plastic is a by far superior product because it lasts over the ages. A lot of resin is okay when you first get it, and then after like 2 or 5 or 10 or even 20 years, it becomes extremely brittle, it breaks easily, it starts to kind of like deteriorate. Anybody that's been in the hobby for a long time will have experienced these same types of things, especially the brittleness over time. And as if that wasn't enough to make me already not want Forgeworld models, the prices are absolutely ridiculous as well. So for instance, if we saw like this Primarch in plastic, it would probably be priced right around like the 170 mark. And I want to say this one is somewhere closer to like 250 or something like that. We'll actually get to that in a sec when we jump over to Forgeworld's website. So to me, it just feels like you're paying for an inferior product. You're paying more for that product. And then the absolute worst part is after you pour your heart and soul into this thing, making it beautiful, they're just very prone to breakages. And then on top of that, between the spear and the wings and everything on this model, it just looks like it's asking to be broken. So that is my overall beef with Forgeworld. Let me know if you've had similar experiences with like breakages over time or like the resin quality deteriorating. Let me know if you've had issues with Forgeworld sending you the wrong thing or missing parts. I personally probably have close to like a dozen of those stories, but that's spread out over decades, which really isn't that bad. And then of course the prices are just absolutely insane. But enough about actual Forgeworld, let's take a look at Fulgrim. Decked out in all the fineries you'd expect of a Primarch of the Emperor's Children, this miniature stands roughly 10 inches tall, providing an eye-catching centerpiece for your trader force. Blessed with extra arms, this avatar of perfection wields 4 weapons, including the Lair Blade, and the option to swap his ornate spear with a demon-toothed blade. Alright, so the spear obviously is very cool and everything, but just looks like it's asking to be broken. And it's really crazy too because you can see the quality of the resin, and just part of why I don't like it is this is the model that they have spent the most time on. This is the prototype that's going to sell all future models, and you can see the spear is bent. And a lot of times you will spend a bunch of time and effort making something like this spear, for instance, perfectly straight, and over time it will just slowly start to sag, or like I said, it gets really brittle and breaks. Now, the actual detail on this model is absolutely beautiful. And back in the day, this was like not achievable with plastic. And that's why like the crisp and sharpness of the resin was so important and why it wasn't previously an inferior product, at least in the detail sense. But now with the technology changes and the equipment and all the cool stuff that Games Workshop has done to like evolve the quality of their models, that's no longer the case. I mean, they can make easily something of this quality, this detail, this crispness, this precision. And it has all the benefits of plastic, the durability, the flexibility, the lack of degradation over time, and absolutely none of the drawbacks. So absolutely beautiful model. I mean, this paint job is amazing. I love this. This is absolutely great. I mean, just killer detail. But I can't help but saying every single time Games Workshop makes something awesome in resin from Forgeworld, it immediately just rules me out as a potential buyer. And I know that a lot of the reason Games Workshop chooses to make models in resin is they're not expecting like massive amounts of sales for them. We see it often with like the necromunda characters and stuff like that. It's far easier and cheaper for them to make a silicone mold and then just pour resin rather than to make an actual like steel mold and then go through like the whole process and everything. And it's substantially cheaper to go the first route as well. So if they're not expecting to sell enough to make a high quality plastic injection mold worthwhile, they'll just go this route and do like the simple thing and just make a resin mold and do like resin pours. And unfortunately, that doesn't make much sense to me on the actual Primarchs, because if you're going to sell a ton of something, it should be the Primarchs, because there's a lot of people who either play this army that would 100% buy the Primarch, or there's a lot of people that would just collect all of the Primarchs because they're just awesome. So the idea that they're not going to be able to sell enough of this model, especially with the price tag of over $250 to pay for what amounts to like, you know, a $10,000 mold cost or something like that, and these are just rough numbers, it just doesn't make much sense to me. So very unfortunate when they make a super cool model like this and then it comes from Forgeworld in resin, because it just immediately rules out like a large percentage of people that would ever purchase this. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. All right, so I went ahead and jumped over to Forgeworld here, and it's actually even worse than I thought. So he is $270 USD. So the Primarchs like Mortarion or Angron, or like the other equally sized and detailed Primarchs in plastic for 40K are $170. So it's extra $100 because this guy is made out of resin and coming from Forgeworld. I would say that the Mortarion, the Magnus, the Angron models are all equally detailed and equally awesome to this. There's definitely a little more like of the intricate details and everything, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he is Slaanesh, that he is Fulgrim. Not so much that this is a resin model as opposed to plastic. And I've already expressed like a little bit of displeasure with the wings. It might be like the camera angle that they keep shooting him at, but they feel extremely like two-dimensional and have like a total lack of detail in them. And it feels a lot like they just did the simplest thing for casting purposes, to make the wings like as flat as possible, give them just a little bit of shape to give them strength. But the actual look of the wings compared to like how it would have looked if they curved them a little bit or did like something cool with them just feels to me like they compromised the overall look and coolness of the model just to make it simple to do resin pours. All right, so here we see him up close. And I mean, this detail is just absolutely beautiful. Again, the model itself is amazing. I love the snake features. I love the actual paint job, the little piece of armor and everything, the intricate details. But I don't think that there would be an issue of them actually making this in plastic if they wanted to. Yeah, I mean, the truth is I'm absolutely in love with this model. It's a shame that I won't be picking it up. And then here we see it in just its straight up resin. Again, just beautiful model, awesome detail, very cool. So $270 is pricey. Obviously being made out of resin, it's going to be brittle. You know that spear is probably already broken before you even open the box. It does say that with the 2-week pre-order period, this item will be dispatched after 11/10/2023. And then also just for like a reference point, this is the previous Fulgrim right here. And now obviously there's no comparison. I mean, this model's cool and everything, but one, it's extremely dated. The bases on all these Horus Heresy miniatures are just absolutely terrible. I mean, this thing just looks like it came from a different game company. And that just shows you how much cooler, how much better the actual sculpts are now and the abilities of Games Workshop and Forgeworld. I can't remember exactly when these old like Horus Heresy Primarch models came out. And I know they were kind of like staggered over the years. But this model is obviously substantially smaller, but also the Fulgrim before. And this one was 124 bucks. So the new one is a little over twice the price of this guy, but obviously substantially larger as well. All right, and then I wanted to kind of compare that also to the Horus Ascended model. So this was the first of the new series of redone Primarchs, and this is the Horus Ascended model. And we see he comes in at 148 bucks. And again, an absolutely beautiful model right here. This guy's much more comparable to like a Baden the Despoiler or Guilliman in like the size and quality. And again, we see that those models in plastic are about like $70 or $75, I think, as where we see Horus Ascended is 150. So you're basically paying like double the price just to get this model made in resin, which is basically a downgrade. So again, I think that further cements my point that there's no actual benefit to the resin models because the plastic capabilities have caught up to like the resin capabilities, but the actual quality of the resin and then obviously the price as well are just substantially inferior because you're basically just paying a ton more for a worse quality product that they could have just made in plastic. So for me, it's an easy pass. Now, if all these were made in plastic, I would 100% pick up and paint all of the Primarchs over time. There's no doubt in my mind. And if there's one thing that I would ever purchase for Horus Heresy, it would definitely be the actual Primarchs just to collect and paint and have. So let me know your honest opinions. Have you purchased from Forgeworld before? Have you had any of the quality issues that I've had? Not only with the actual resin holding up over time, but with the Forgeworld quality control department sending you out either broken, miscast, or missing pieces. I know I'm not the only one that's had these issues. And matter of fact, when I see somebody like Tabletop Titans having that same issue again, or not too long ago when Squidmar Miniatures was doing their whole big Titan thing, they had a similar issue with one of their Titans. There was missing pieces as well. And then obviously I have had dozens of experiences over the years. And don't get me wrong, my definition of a good experience is me buying a thing and then it showing up and being the thing with no issues. So I'm not setting the bar like super high here. So I always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. A lot of people have reached out to me also and questioned why I don't like resin, what the issue is. And it's just an inferior product. It takes a lot more like cleaning and prep. You oftentimes have to use like a heat to mold things back into places. You have to make sure that you do an extremely good job cleaning it, or once you start putting paint on it, it can flake or chip back off. They've done a lot to improve the way that the kits go together. So in general, there's not as much like sanding and filing and putty work, but that's definitely still a thing. And then of course, on top of all those issues, the price is just ridiculous. So yeah, tell me one of your good stories or one of your horrors. So yeah, tell me one of the good stories you've had with Forgeworld, or tell me one of the horror stories you've had where you dropped a miniature and it exploded into 100 pieces. Whatever it is, I always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. Special thanks to CMO Games, as always, for sponsoring the video. Link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I can't help but think every time one of these cool models comes out from Forgeworld, how much money Games Workshop is missing out on. And I'm out of here.